One of the major storylines heading into the Toronto Raptors season is who's going to be in the starting lineup, what are the rotations going to look like, and who's going to end up in the Darko Rajakovic doghouse. Well, it seems like those details have been revealed, so we'll discuss that in this video, including an unfortunate injury update regarding Precious Achiuwa and an update regarding Otto Porter Jr.'s health, and probably one of the worst trade proposals I've ever seen regarding Pascal Siakam. So lots of stuff to break down. Without further ado, let's jump on the first topic of discussion. First thing we're taking a look at is the Raptors starting lineup revealed. And Raptors preseason basketball begins tomorrow. We've been seeing the team clips coming out of training camp, and now it seems like, given all the comments and the teams that have been put together during the training camp sort of sessions the Raptors have had in recent weeks, we know who the starting lineup is going to be, at least for the start of the year, at least for the start of preseason. As first thing was sort of a comment we can grab from a little bit. Basically, that Darko just said while discussing Jakob Poeltl, he's going to be playing with a much different point guard this season in Dennis Schroeder. Dennis does a great job at running the team, and obviously we lost Fred VanVleet, so it's tough to read that into that a little bit too much. But the real debate starting off this year is, will Dennis Schroeder be in the starting lineup? Will he be the point guard for this team? Or will Scottie Barnes end up moving to the PG position, as he claims that's his current position in his Instagram bio, right? Will Dennis Schroeder be in the starting lineup, or will Gary Trent Jr. run the two and Scottie be the natural point guard? Well, those comments indicate that Darko Rajakovic believes the team's point guard this season is Dennis Schroeder, and the lineups he's been running in practice indicate this as well. So basically, Dennis Schroeder is running with Team Black alongside with Jakob Poeltl, Scottie Barnes, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam, while Gary Trent Jr. is on Team White with Malachi Flynn, Chris Boucher, Thaddeus Young, as well as McDaniels. So basically, you look at these lineups, you look at these sort of two teams here, clearly the OG Pascal Scottie lineup is not going to be the one on the bench, and that's the lineup that Darko Rajakovic has been running to sort of get the players to gel together. Obviously, it makes sense to have players practice with the players that they're going to be on the court with the most. And this might come as a surprise to some Toronto Raptors fans that Dennis Schroeder will be the starting point guard, especially once he was initially signed, when he was immediately brought in. A lot of people sort of hyped up, said, hey, Fred's out, Dennis Schroeder is an elite backup point guard in the NBA. This is the perfect time to bring Scottie Barnes to the point guard position and run that starting unit of Scottie, Gary, OG, Pascal, and Jakob Poeltl. And given the lack of shooting from Scottie Barnes and Jakob Poeltl specifically, heck, even Pascal Siakam at times, there's been a lot of arguments I've seen made that it just makes sense to have Gary Trent Jr. in the starting lineup, as he brings floor spacing. You know, he can knock down shots, he can create, and, you know, the fact he'll open up the floor for guys like Pascal, for Scottie Barnes, who aren't necessarily the most consistent jump shooters, and certainly Jakob Poeltl, who just doesn't shoot them at all. But after what we saw from Dennis Schroeder during the World Cup, his ability to perform on one of the world's biggest stages, winning the championship for Team Germany, facing off against teams like the USA and all these sort of squads, he definitely turned some heads. And now I think a lot of Raptors fans have sort of adjusted their opinion. I don't think anyone was disappointed ever in the Dennis Schroeder signing. I mean, if you compared to Damian Lillard, maybe whatever. But basically, Dennis Schroeder kind of showed himself that if he can lead a team like Team Germany to that level of success on the international stage, you know, deal with the coaches, players as the sort of de facto leader out there on the court, it's a nice sort of thing to have for the Toronto Raptors team to insert into the starting lineup. And even though he's not as good of a shooter as Gary Trent Jr., this lineup sort of makes sense. And while Scottie Barnes, it's been said 1,000 times this summer that he's going to have the ball in his hands more often this upcoming season, him running the full-time point guard spot might not make the most sense. And at least given his current skill set. Maybe if you want to develop him into be a full-time point guard, you can let him work out the wrinkles, iron out his skills by throwing him to the fire for this season. But even though he's a tremendous playmaker, his basketball IQ is on another level. There's at times when Scottie Barnes has the ball in his hands, especially in transition scenarios when he's sort of initiating the offense, he has a tendency to rush the play a little bit. You know, you can play fast and you can rush. They're two completely different things. And Dennis Schroeder definitely plays extremely fast. He's one of the fastest point guards in the entire NBA, but he rushes less, and that's given his experience, his age, and just a full-time career playing at the point guard position in the NBA. So basically, Dennis Schroeder seems like the more natural fit for the PG spot, even if we definitely want to see Scottie Barnes have the ball in his hands more often. But, you know, with that all being said, the shooting is going to be a question mark. So we'll see how long Darko Rajakovic ends up using these lineups. But I also want to take a look at the bench units because there's a couple guys that aren't really here for the Team White squad. And obviously these aren't set in stone rotation hierarchy types of things. But guys like Grady Dick, Marquise Noel, two players, even Jeff Doughton, who we're not sure is going to make the roster at this point. But those are two guys and Grady Dick and Marquise Noel, who have a lot of Toronto Raptors fans excited, particularly Grady Dick, as he was a lottery pick. He brings the shooting that the Toronto Raptors desperately need. The fact that he isn't in sort of that tier 2 sort of team going into the season, again, we can't read too much into the tier 2s, tier 1s. The bench, I'm sure, is going to fluctuate as it does with any team, but Grady Dick is someone I want to see in the Toronto Raptors rotation. So I'm hoping Darko Rajakovic doesn't have a bias towards the younger players. I know it's always the coaches, it's always the players' intentions to win now and stuff, but don't put the young guys in the doghouse. Let them free, let them run a little bit, especially if they're lottery picks and they can get going. And Marquise Noel has impressed a lot of Toronto Raptors fans from what he did in Summer League, his highlights, his mentality, all that type of stuff. So I hope he's not sort of an afterthought, even though he's just a two-way player. But let me know who you guys want to see in the Toronto Raptors rotation for this upcoming season. Next thing we're taking a look at is some unfortunate injury updates for the Toronto Raptors. One that could especially be brutal is the one regarding Precious Achiuwa. It's basically details have come out regarding the injury scenario saying that Precious Achiuwa suffered a left groin strain in training camp practice and won't be available for tonight's inter-squad scrimmage that happened last night and Sunday's preseason opener against the Sacramento Kings. He will be evaluated further when the Raptors return to Toronto. So that sucks because groin injuries, as anyone that's done any type of sport, heck, even if you've walked around and you messed up your groin, those injuries are really tough to heal, as you can't really walk without sort of aggravating your groin area. So basically, I'm happy that they didn't say out indefinitely. I'm happy they didn't throw a major timeline, but it is very ambiguous. It is very sort of not clear in terms of how long Precious Achiuwa will be out with this. Again, you can recover from this as extremely minor, a week or so, but these are things that can get really bad, can flare up, and it sucks that it's happening right at the beginning of the season. Because last season, Precious Achiuwa, was pegged to have an goodness gracious, all-star, but a breakout season for the Toronto Raptors after his first year where he really impressed, shattered a lot of expectations. Then, even though he struggled a little bit early, fell down to injury at the beginning of the year, missed a huge chunk of the season. So we don't want this to happen again with Precious Achiuwa. He's a guy that needs reps, needs development, and can be a serious threat for the Toronto Raptors if he gets that opportunity. So hopefully he's healthy coming to the start of the season. But also another name on the injury list is Otto Porter Jr., who is not playing in the scrimmage, but the Raptors say it's a matter of ramping up activity and not an injury. So basically, Otto Porter Jr. obviously was a highly touted sort of acquisition for the Toronto Raptors for this most recent season, but barely played last year, only played a handful of games, and looked good in his handful of games, even though he was dealing with injuries and stuff, but had toe surgery over the course of the summer, and apparently the Raptors just easing him back in. With his injury history, I think it makes sense. Happy it's not specifically injury-related. We heard Darko Rajakovic make comments that they aren't sure if he's going to be fully ready to go at the start of the season, but they hope that that's the case. He's participating in training camp and all that type of stuff, so let's hope we get a healthy Otto Porter Jr. this season, because he could be huge in fortifying our bench. But let me know what you guys think about all this Toronto Raptors news. And actually, we have another topic. Goodness gracious me, what am I doing? Because we have an insane trade proposal that I wanted to bring up. I blocked it out of my brain. That's why I started the outro and started going in that direction. But basically, Pascal Siakam, he's been rumored in trade rumors, and when players are rumored in trade rumors, you get a lot of people cooking up the trade machine and trying to make some crazy deals. And folks over at Sixers Digest, shout out Sean and Casey, sent me over this one, and I had a little chuckle, had a little laugh. It's basically a Sixers blog came out and posted this, saying that Pascal and Bones Highland go to the 76ers, James Harden goes to LA Clippers, and the Raptors receive the amazing package of Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Amir Coffey, Kobe Brown, and 2 unprotected firsts. And yes, Amir Coffey, Kobe Brown, they're not horrific assets. They're not something that you should scoff at and anything like that. And again, a few middle schoolers in 2030, unprotected picks, maybe they could pan out to be something great. But for a guy in Pascal Siakam that puts up these types of numbers, these all NBA-esque numbers, 24 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 48% from the field, the number one option on the Toronto Raptors, won a championship as the number 2. I mean, his resume speaks for himself. It's a deal like that would be stupid. It would be downright stupid. I get people saying, "Oh, leave for nothing." Heck, I'd rather him leave for nothing than take that deal back. That's just my take. Maybe I'll unprotect your first round picks. I'm ignoring the value of those and all that. But personally, I'm not happy with that deal, and I think it's a little bit shocking. But let me know what you guys think about all this Toronto Raptors news. You guys best think this far. If you wanted to check out a deal video regarding OG Anunoby's next contract, click this video right here. Cheers.